Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the live. I'm here with Uta.
Hello.
Make sure to check out Uta's channel. I'll leave the details in the description at the end of the live or during the live if I can figure out how to do it. Just waiting for some more people to come in. So give me a 1 if you can hear me, if you can hear both of us. A 1 in the chat. Hopefully you can hear us. Hi, Kari. I think I might have to put my glasses on because I have to read. Oh, great. You guys can hear us. Hi, Carissa. Poliana. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to talk about everything that's been happening with the whole Gold's Gym situation. And Uta has been working with what we call trans widows. Is that right?
Yes.
For a while now. How long have you been collecting data? Because you've been
Well,
collecting data
about
on various
3
people.
years. About 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah, because my channel, as of a week ago, is exactly 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and I now have data on the experiences of 76 women who divorced suddenly full-time cross-dressing husbands.
Wow. 76 now.
Yes.
And how long did
And
it take to
yeah,
get to 76? Is it over?
it took me 3 years. I think it started off very slowly. I'm not really on Twitter. I published a book, a memoir of my experiences in the Curated Woods, True Tales, from a grass widow at the time in 2022, because so much was going on with book sales being suppressed, like the one from Helen Joyce, Trans When Biology Meets Something, when reality meets, I forget, I think she's changed it too. Anyway, for a while that was canceled from Amazon and so on. And so I thought I better not have trans in my subtitle, but I want to have some indication that, something happened in my marriage. And I know that some people are upset or are puzzled about the use of the word widow, but that is a term, trans widow, that I did not invent. The term grass widow goes back as far as 1528, and it indicated a woman who was not with her husband at a time when really divorce was hardly allowed, and but she was living honorably separately from her husband. And this was used in letters between clergy and that kind of thing. And so I somehow, maybe a couple of decades ago, the uh, the term trans widow became the common colloquial usage for women who have gone through this variety of divorce.
So before the term trans widow, it was grass widow.
Well, grass widow is just an old term that I had known about from reading novels that actually took place like in the 1600s and that type of thing. And I had just heard of it. And it references also that, or it could be for a woman whose husband simply disappeared, but they don't have proof that he died. And
Oh,
so they say grass, like a patch of grass instead of a grave, to
oh,
grieve it. And it fits in actually with the phrase which I just learned for a great deal of what we experience, which is ambiguous loss. Because we don't have the process of grieving a death, even though in many cases it is like a death. Your husband now says that the man that he married and the name under which under which you knew him or by which you knew him is now his dead name. So they have all sorts of morbid descriptions of their past life being their dead life. So it just sort of, I guess, flowed into in the colloquial that women who divorce these cross-dressing men are called trans widows.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sick Lid, for the $20 super sticker. Really, really appreciate it. So I wanted to show you the examples that I've seen on TikTok of, I guess you would call them trans widows. And one thing I noticed, a lot of the examples I've seen is this idea of the man trying to either look like his wife or just assume her identity in one way or another.
Speech, gestures. Yeah, speech,
Yeah.
gestures, the clothing, the makeup style, hairstyle, all of that.
Yeah.
Because they're focusing on copying you, right? When they're thinking about this, when they're ruminating obsessively about how they don't want to be in their male body, which is often from a sexual fetish and also can stem from trauma and abuse. So, you know, naturally, you're the person that he's around the most. And
Right.
sometimes they also copy, you know, siblings, sisters, and even mothers. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Let's take a look at this. I will start it from the beginning. It seems to be starting off well.
This poor baby.
Looking more and more like her.
Ugh.
And this is another TikTok couple.
The poor dog.
Recreating wedding photos.
Like, they're looking for a Hollywood contract.
Yeah, these seem more publicity driven. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're both examples of women who have stuck by the man since he's come out as trans. And I think one of them calls themselves a lesbian couple now, or at least the wife has said that she's attracted to women, the latter couple that we saw. But the first one, the wife says she's still attracted to men, but you know, that's her husband, and they don't consider themselves a lesbian couple or anything like that. And with the first one, I think it was soon after she gave birth, he came out as trans. And with the second couple, they had had like 3 kids, been together 5 years, and then he came out as trans. So just it's unbelievable to me, these sort of stories.
Yeah. They're really hard to get through. It's I don't recommend staying. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how those people and those men actually want to put themselves out, you know, with their wife. I mean, I totally understand the narcissistic obsession with putting themselves out there, pictures and various images of themselves out online, because that's what they need to do. They're driven to do for validation of this persona. I call them men who take on a female persona. I try to avoid the phrase trans women at all costs. You know,
I'm at that stage now. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean the gaslighting, right? The one any woman who is coerced and gaslit into saying that she realizes now she's in a lesbian relationship. That um, you know, that's the gaslighting, and unfortunately, I would say, you know, in liberal areas, in blue states, and so on, countries, Western Europe, and all, the mental health practitioners will also, which happened to me, the mental health practitioners will also either directly say or imply to the wife that she is a lesbian and she needs to recognize she was probably attracted to some kind of feminine qualities in her husband,
Wow.
which makes no sense if you ask me, according to my lesbian friends, some of whom, you know, kind of prefer to look butch or to, they're attracted to women who have very short hair and kind of muscular and, you know, a little bit macho, you could say. But I mean, for me, I see it all as personality. And I don't really believe in the categories of masculine and feminine. Um, and why? Because, you know, lots of men in Africa where, or in other parts, all over the world,
Mm.
you know, Southeast Asia, you know, all kind of places, the Pacific, they wear bright colors. Everybody wears bright colors. They wear something that you could call maybe a sarong or a kaftan or something like that. And and in, you know, Western European history, you could see Louis the 14th or Henry the 8th wearing lacy shirts and sort of skirt kind of things. And, you
Like
know,
shorts and
and there's kilts, you
yeah,
know, with the Scottish national
actually very
thing.
masculine to me.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and that's just the clothing that you're putting on. There was a detransitioner once, a woman who said, "What are we, mannequins? We're human bodies." And you know, I get the the dressing that makes me the cross dressing that makes me sort of the most irritated because I am a gardener. This is like my whoops, wrong way. StreamYard gets me mixed up. This is like my last bouquet out of my garden. So, uh, and so there was a gardening show, one of my favorite British gardening shows, Gardener's World, on one of their shows with like the Chelsea Garden Show or the, you know, one of those shows that's, you know, very fancy, all this stuff, all these beautiful things, great ideas. And then they have this man cross dressing, gardening in very high heeled boots, wearing a short, like, you know, tutu kind of a dress. Like, who gardens in that? Oh, I love the image of the bee and the flowers on this comment. Oh,
She's
yeah,
Carissa said it's all a part of the fetish, and being a woman is supposedly humiliating to them. Oh, so them posting it plays into it. A lot of them are heterosexual who don't particularly enjoy male features on themselves.
yeah,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. The other thing about what I see as a person who was a trained special education teacher and an early childhood teacher, master's degrees, all kind of postmaster level training, etc., 20 plus years teaching. What I think that their unconscious mind is doing is going back and trying to fix something that in their child brain got set, whereby they get this idea that there's something wrong with being the male sex, that something bad that happened to them wouldn't have happened if only they were a girl, um, or uh, or there's some trauma, some death, and they obsessively attach to the female relative or person who was close to the family to that person who died. And that happens with some adult men in adulthood also. And what's happening is the mental health practitioners are engaging in malpractice. It's simply malpractice. Uh, I was just thinking yesterday, preparing to talk to you about this, that, I regard in a way that this scandal ultimately is as large as the thalidomide scandal, which is that because the surgeries that they're doing um, uh, injure the patient, and they can get incontinence, they can end up with sepsis and life-threatening things and all this. Um, Thalidomide, of course, was this drug that was given widely after World War II as a mild sedative. But they didn't realize, they didn't test it. Classic medical research, that was flawed. They didn't test it on, um, women who were pregnant. I mean, I don't know how you would do that anyway. That's really what we learned, that when you're pregnant, you have to take as little things as possible, and of course, not drink or do drugs and stuff. But so thalidomide caused the limbs of those fetuses to develop abnormally, and they were born, without hands or with very short arms, or, it inhibited fetal development in utero. And actually, the event of this, the thalidomide scandal, precipitated the formation of the U.S. The drug, uh, what's it called? The our drug. I, it's the acronym is the drug and
So the FDA.
FDA. Thank you. The Federal Drug Administration.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all focused on digging up my dahlia tubers and all the fall gardening, so I'm like, yeah. So the FDA was actually formed in response to what happened with thalidomide, in the US banned thalidomide before they banned it in Europe. And then they figured out, from these babies no longer being born with these deformities, and that was still happening in Europe and the UK, that it must be the thalidomide. And it was just, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's really and I view it as the same kind of mistake. And what I think is very interesting, is the phenomenon now of Tish Hyman.
Yes.
She is clearly a phenomenon. I get goosebumps when I talk about her, because she is clearly not a person who subscribes to the Daily Wire and, watching, Fox News or something like that. She is a musician. She lives in California. She apparently, based on what she said about, she thinks that Representative Scott Wiener has done some good things and stuff like that.
Housing, she was
She's
saying. Yeah.
she's in any case, you know, not they won't be able. She was smart the way she presented it all, because everything she said, hasn't it been interesting watching her quickly? That's why I think she's so brilliant, because she's not really hanging on to this, oh, well, we should call them transsexuals and they should just have separate spaces. She's also making the realization with about this is hurting girls, and that there are women, she probably doesn't know that they're called trans widows, but there are women who are assaulted physically by their husbands who transition. And I now have data on 76. We're going to go up to 78 very quickly. I'm waiting on 2 more. And my question about did he physically assault you, being separate from a sexual assault. Of course, sexual assault involves physical assault, but I'm just talking about non sexual physical assault. 38% of those 76 husbands.
38%.
Physical assault.
No.
For sexual assault, it's just slightly higher. 39% of those 76 men sexually assaulted their wives. And about 10% of the cases, about 7 of us have told the complete story, which I did not experience. I was not a yes for physical or sexual assault. I so what was I saying? This happens to me. I sometimes lose because it is still it's not as difficult to talk about my past, as it used to be. But I do know, for example, that these I know what I was saying. I know why I had a hard time. Like my mind is trying to shut this down. So 7 or so of these 76 women were repeatedly, forcibly forced into sexual intercourse. I'm not sure what you're allowed to say here on this live stream, but we all know that's the R word. And repeatedly, and couldn't get out because of finances. Now, so I've got my new list. I have a survey, which is called 20 Questions to Ask a Trans Widow, and I also call it the Hagen Survey because I feel like Uta Hagen is a pen name. I cannot use my given name. I've already been doxxed, and my children even were trolled. I think, being that I've published a memoir and I've taken a stand on this, that it would have happened anyway, but my children stopped having any communication with me about 4 years ago. And I'm really hoping that someone like Tish Hyman, and the way in which she tells everything very authentically, very honestly, you can hear the pain in her voice when she talks about being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. So, but what I was going to say was, so 48 of us had the experience. 48% of us, which is 36 of us, had he found out that he put money in a secret account and spent it on electrolysis, wardrobe, and stuff like that. And 48% also he suggested or coerced or cajoled her into trying out sex role play. Now, that is separate from the sexual assaults. So this is when you're just coerced into this, and also, pretending to be male and putting on a strap on. There's one woman in my data who had a large scar from an emergency C-section, and she said that the activity that he wanted her to do while wearing a strap on, which is like a toy penis, I guess, a toy erect penis or something that the woman has to tie around herself. It was hurting her scar. It was damaging her scar. And he still wanted her to keep on doing this when she said, no, I can't, I have to stop. This is hurting me. So this is why, because of these rates of violence, this is why I say, I really think you should leave. There's now 54% of us experienced that he defamed or vilified us either online or in court in some way publicly. And that's very common. Some women don't know because they moved continents. One woman who insisted that I don't use a pen name for her is Rex Landy, and she's in New Zealand. And she was in the UK when this happened with her husband, and she, like in the middle of the night, had a packed suitcase and left with their infant son and has never seen him since. And she has no idea what he says about her. But she did, she lived in poverty after that because, of course, he never uh, paid any financial child support. Um, so, and then the ones like this one on the TikTok that you showed, where they have 3 children. Also, they had children in pretty fast succession if they were only together for 5 years and they have 3 children. God bless anybody, I say, who has children and takes good care of them and stuff, just like that. Many in my parents' generation, that was how it worked out. Um, uh,
It always seems to be
wonder,
around the time of when they have children.
oh yeah,
With the
that's a
first one
pattern.
who just
Yeah.
had a
But
baby.
is this dude demanding that these 3 little kids, the youngest of which probably doesn't really have an experience of, a father that it can be remembered. Um, and is it required of them, demanded of them that they call him mama something? And so, I mean, that's a substantial percent of those of us who are mothers, about a third of us who are mothers. Many many of these women were able to just up and leave and move to a different city, even move to a different country, because there weren't any children involved. They didn't have to go through the custody battle in court. And so it was, just a quick no fault divorce or something like that. Um, but one of the things I sort of went through, some of my notes. I have a suitcase full of the printed out testimonies of these women. But I have a quote from Helen Joyce, who is the author of Trans: When Biology Meets Reality. I can't remember. When Trans Meets Reality, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, she says, of the 3 things, public opinion, law, and reality, the important one is reality. I'm well aware that it's fashionable right now to pretend that people can change sex. Sometimes good ideas are fashionable, and sometimes terrible ones are. And this one is terrible. That's because it is false and because it's harmful. And I know, for example, that my ex-husband, who had 3 degrees from Ivy League schools and became the chief operating officer of a database management firm that served world-class museums, like the Tate in the UK. Suddenly I started looking up, kind of just online, observing what was going on with his company, and they had a pronouns page. Now he's retired. He's about 71. He retired 2 years ago, and all of a sudden he's just disappeared from their whole website. They aren't saying thank you so and so for being our, you know, the captain of our ship for 20 years or whatever. But he had a pronouns page. So along with telling the museum staff how to keep track of where all their holdings are and who their members and donors are, they were also promoting to museum educators, people that I worked with as a kindergarten teacher, taking 5-year-olds to the Brooklyn Museum. So museum educators were getting this indoctrination about pronouns, that they should wear the badge that says their name and their pronouns. And also, they were promoting the idea that perhaps we can look for clues in various artists' world famous artworks, clues that that person actually had a non-binary or opposite sex persona identity. So, in that respect, um, that is my ex-husband using children to justify what he did, which traumatized our children when they were 5 and 8. So, um, but uh,
They were trying to attribute something to these artists that there was no evidence of whatsoever,
right.
just so they could
Yeah.
feel more.
And I think especially it's happening to female artists, because once in a while they made statements about how they would have had um, more freedom if they hadn't been a woman. And if they hadn't been trying to raise children and run a household while they're painting, you know. Um, so I've just to just give you a couple of testimonies from people. This is about the money. Did he put money in a secret account? Yes, he often spent money on clothes and makeup and also electrolysis. He always kept his credit card statements away from me and his banking details hidden. And there's the case of, I think it's Una Jane Winfield, who does also go by her own name. She recently did a rather viral video of her experience as a trans widow with a new YouTube creator, Kelly Oliver Dougal, um, and and who is also a counselor. She actually has started counseling detransitioners, trans widows, and really helping people. She's the one who told me about the term ambiguous loss. So Una Jane is on her channel. Una Jane said that in a closet, when she discovered some strange behavior and her husband wouldn't answer questions and stuff like that. And this is going back, like me, 30 years. So she found in some, attic chest or something, she found all these women's clothes and high heels in his big, huge size, and credit cards that were in her now deceased mother's name. So we know about the Gold's Gym dude who took the name Alexis, which is the same name as the ex-wife that he almost killed. I think he should have been in jail for attempted manslaughter, and not just battery assault. Because you hit someone hard enough to break their jaw in 3 places, if the punch landed somewhere else, she could have died. And I know of 3 women whose husbands did kill them, who are now serving time in the women's prison estate. I think one in maybe Ohio. I think that the thing is the ACLU gets involved and gets these people. And so Beverly Gunther, Jennifer Anderson, and Olesia Senkova, who was a Ukrainian in Germany, are all 3 women were murdered by their husbands as they were trying to leave, basically. And Alicia Senkova is the mother of 3 kids, and they were in a room that was locked, overhearing their father murder their mother. And he only got 11 years in Germany, and he's serving that time in a women's prison. And why we don't hear these horrific stories is because there is an entity in the US. I think it was formed in the US, and I feel like because my ex-husband has the library degree and actually contributed to a style guide called the MLA Style Book, for the way you write papers and credit sources and things. There is this organization which is called Trans Journalists Association, and they have a so-called style book. It's called the Trans Journalists Association Style Book and Coverage Guide. And the name of this document, which demands that you don't report the violent crimes of these men ever, and you make sure that you don't use the biological pronouns. You have to bow down and consult what this person wants. That that is one reason. Like, those people who are in this Trans Journalists Association will call up the New York Times or the Washington Post or whatever, the Cleveland, I forget what that's called. It's kind of an interesting name, the Cleveland newspaper. And make complaints, threaten to sue, and get the ACLU involved if they don't follow this misrepresentation guide for how to write about these men. I have a theory that one reason they balk at the idea of a separate, so-called, in quotes, trans woman changing room or bathroom is that they're afraid of each other. They know how violent they can be. And they know also how much drugs and excess alcohol consumption is going on in their cohort, in their circles. And that's known from all the drag shows and all this kind of thing. And then just, specifics about, like this is actually trans widow number 77. And I haven't done a profile of her yet, but this is my question number 11. Did he force unwanted sex with you? Okay, yes, often. This began as masturbating onto me or using my body while I was asleep, and then progressed to straight up R word. He would throw me over and do whatever he wanted. I was 19 and afraid of him. I never mentioned this to anyone, not until years later in therapy. And this woman got away. She had 2 children with him. And like this commenter just mentioned, it is often after the birth of a child that they really go full blown with this. The second child actually was the result of the last R word that he committed on her. And in her therapy, in the kind of woke area that she lives in the world, I have data from all over, from Western Europe, from Scandinavia, the UK, California, New York, the South, places where you wouldn't expect, Alabama, Texas. Her therapist is requiring her to say his new female name and use female pronouns for her R wordist. Yeah. And so the mental health profession needs to catch up. And
concern.
Yeah, and this one was not violent to her. What was it? Yes. Okay, so she was saying she didn't go into therapy with him and get told that she was a lesbian, but he went to solo therapy after beating up his mother and getting arrested, and he was in prison for a few days. But probably his mother decided not to press charges, and so then that was it. And so, and for example, there's another one very similar to this last one where, she's talking about it starts with masturbating next to you while you're asleep and then it escalates. So there was a case like that in the UK where she did call the police. She had an infant that was maybe 5 weeks old. She ran barefoot with the infant out onto the street in London. People helped her, called the police. She reported it took her to the hospital. She did the kit and everything. So she had, um, DNA evidence and all that, and as well as witnesses, right? And the Met Police really blew it. And about 6 weeks later, called her up where she's harboring at her mother's and said, "We don't have enough evidence to prosecute." Now, that was, I mean, she thought that he was going to kill her. He also, typically, along with those 7 that I said, where it was very, very violent, um, typically there's also battery strangulation. And that's the technical word for, choking someone using your hands, because choking is actually something going down your windpipe and you can't breathe because of that. And strangulation is the correct word for, someone from the outside obstructing your airways. And if they don't kill you doing it, it's called battery strangulation. So I've learned a lot of legalese, and it is unconscionable that a man like this Kyle Grant Freeman, who calls himself Alexis, his ex-wife's first name, can go on to TMZ with his smarmy voice and bright pink lipstick and act like they are violating him by saying, but you are a biological man and so and so and so and so, when he knows that he's a convicted felon who pled guilty to assault and battery of his wife. And he also
to mention that
he also pled guilty. They didn't know, I think, yet, but they also pled guilty. He also pled guilty to 2 felony cocaine charges. So how does he have those 3 strikes? I guess it was a plea deal, and I don't. He wasn't serving his time in a women's prison, to the best of my knowledge, because it was after he got out of prison that he started ideating a female persona. And to me, all of this about the way he acts, this is likely to be someone who had a traumatic, destabilized, violent childhood, possibly was, SA'd himself. And I have a theory that it's the unconscious mind trying to revisit that, but then doing it through watching violent, corn, and especially the sissy hypno corn, and then acting it out that way, because of course, if he does that to a woman, he's going to come out being not the victim. I think it's some unconscious part of his brain wanting to go back and have a do-over and not be the victim, but instead, goes down this rabbit hole of being the aggressor. And who knows? I mean, a lot of these men, like my ex-husband, whom I have named Neddy as his pseudonym, a lot of them also have very negative feelings about their mothers, because their mothers didn't protect them. Often it's the father or some other male in the neighborhood or relative or something that has abused them in some way or other. And so this is really, first of all, they're not healing this person. They're not, they don't talk. I mean, the PhD psychologist who diagnosed my ex-husband on July 20th of 1993 and proudly stated that it was the first appointment, the first time she's meeting him, and she diagnosed him as transsexual. And she proudly wrote that in, I think it was 1997, in a sworn affidavit. Oh, little cat feet. I remember you. Yes.
Cat feet for joining us. Thanks for joining us, and you
Yes.
have a good evening.
Yes, thank you to everyone. I'm hoping that all of this will help, steer us back on the right path. I have in my I hope for Irene list. I have that Tish and Irene will be here like me on a live stream sometime soon.
Well, hopefully, you never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But she's definitely let's have a little summary of what we're talking about here.
Gym locker room scandal just took a shocking new turn. The person at the center of it all has been revealed to have a serious criminal past. According to media reports, before transitioning, this individual was known as Grant Freeman. In 2022, he pleaded guilty in Ohio to domestic assault that caused serious injury to a partner. After serving his sentence, he transitioned and took his ex-partner's name, Alexis. Yes, the same person who now insists on entering women's locker rooms, claiming they have every right to be there, is the same person once convicted of serious domestic violence. Yet when women speak up and say they feel unsafe, they're the ones silenced, banned, and labeled as intolerant. Remember the woman who lost her Gold's Gym membership? She simply voiced her concern and got removed for it. Now this story has gone viral. One side supports the gym's inclusivity policy, while the other, mostly women, just want to feel safe. If even people with serious criminal backgrounds can freely enter women's spaces, then maybe something in the system is broken.
And when Tish spoke to Scott Wiener, his main concern was that she misgendered him or referred to him as a man. That was his main concern, when this is somebody who broke his wife's jaw to the point where the bone poked through the skin. And like you said, it could have killed her. Only got a year. And this is somebody who Tish was stuck in the locker room with. But yet people are so concerned about whether we call him a man or not. And clearly he is a man. And I thought that was very interesting what you said, is that these men don't even want to be in a locker room with each other, because they know about how violent they can be. They know that they're on, some of them are on drugs or whatever. They're well aware of that. And it's the same thing with these men who identify as trans in sports. They don't want to compete against each other. They don't want to compete against other men, because they know they're at a disadvantage because they're just mediocre athletes. They're not at the level that they are when they're competing against women. But yet women are expected to compete against these men. Women are expected to be in the locker room with these men, the same men who don't even want to be around each other.
Right, but it goes back to what I think they are doing subconsciously or unconsciously. Because what are they doing when they enter a women's competition? They dominate. It's about domination. That's what it's about. And then they get the added bonus, the frosting on the cake is, with a whipped cream and a cherry on top, is the adoration that they get from particularly liberals who believe that they are helping this person. They believe that they are in favor of women's rights. They believe that, this man just needs to be validated and affirmed, because otherwise he might go off himself. When in fact, like my ex-husband, all those years ago, especially in 1992, when I first found his 3 cross-dressing diaries and realized, oh, he's not at graduate school classes over at NYU doing this business degree. He is out there doing I don't know what with who knows whom, right? Because he was dressing up and seeing if he could so-called pass as a woman, and going to gay bars on 8th Street in Manhattan, pretending that he was at the library working on his papers for his MBA. And there I was at home alone in the middle of Brooklyn with an infant and a 3-year-old. and there's no consideration for, the responsibility that I have, that if one of the children gets sick and I have to call an ambulance or something, that I'm all by myself. I mean, this was in the 1990s. We didn't have cell phones. I didn't even have a beeper, to get him to go make a phone call at a phone booth. Um, so, and the thing about, that they want to be able to breastfeed, they have pregnancy envy. They go around like that first clip that you showed, where now that's wonderful for men to hold their babies and stuff in one of those little packs and all that stuff. I'm not criticizing that. But for him, that baby serves a purpose, which is to somehow validate his female persona as real. And these guys have completely swallowed, as did obviously Scott Wiener and the people who were there at that town hall or whatever it was that he was holding. I feel that Tish Hyman probably got a little bit of coaching from Erin Friday, who is with I can't remember what the organization is called, but she is the mother of a daughter who for a while thought that she should be a boy, as did all of a sudden a whole bunch of the girls in this California middle school. And she just put her foot down. She did a bunch of research. She's an attorney. She knew how to write lawyer letters. Her daughter came out of it without anything except wasted time. Anyway, she's made a group. I think it's called Our Duty. The group is called Our Duty, and it's for mostly parents. I've actually emailed with her, so she knows about trans widows and our stories. But I could tell. I wonder even if if that group might have gifted Tish Hyman some of those XXXY shirts and stuff, because all of a sudden she has quite a few of them. I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, it's Jennifer Say's company.
Yes, Jennifer Say's company. I have, here, I have the little card from my socks and this shirt that I ordered. And so, please do. They've started having, a sale section, so you can get some things on sale. And they have, red and gold and silver and stuff, Christmas colors for your gender critical shopping. I call it
about this. What Patty's saying here about the breastfeeding.
Yes.
For me, that's one of the worst things to come out of this whole movement or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because it's basically people have gone along with trying to normalize SA, against children, child abuse. They've gone along with normalizing that, even to the point where the BBC was trying to push this lie that the liquid that these men produce with the drugs that they take is just as nutritious and just as good as the mother's milk. And then when you think about that, a baby's taken away, from his mother, who will produce milk soon after birth, and given to a man for him to fulfill his, sick desires. They try to normalize that.
Right.
And everything that's been going on with men going into the locker room, what happened with Leah Thomas, exposing himself to those girls, this is what they've tried to normalize for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
For what? Just to appease somebody's identity, to get a pat on the back? It's absolutely sick.
It's
what has come out of this whole thing.
Validation of a pretend identity, a fantasy, And the other thing about the breastfeeding is that, first of all, they've ruined the La Leche League, I understand, and various women all over the world, the UK, Australia, in the US, various lactation organizations have decided they don't want to deal with all the lawsuits from the ACLU and these men. So they let the men into these women's breastfeeding lactation groups. And that's, that's pointless. It's really, really pointless. And I feel the worst for, if it's a case where he's now the at-home dad and she went back to work because he's got all kind of drugs and alcohol problems, and he's not, many of these ex-husbands in my data have lost jobs, they have drug problems, and she couldn't get out of it because she was the sole support of the family, and she would end up having to pay alimony and child support, if you can imagine. But the other thing is that these men cannot produce. I've seen enough of these men holding up the little, tube. I expressed milk, holding up their so-called expressed milk. And it's this tiny little thing. I mean, when I was first breastfeeding both times with both of my sons, like I was able to fill up, a couple of extra bottles just from this hand, not even an electric kind of a pump, nothing fancy, because the milk just comes down. This is biologically what you're doing. You are giving this child all their nourishment. And first of all, we don't know anything about the chemical transfer in men who are taking all these chemicals into their bodies to
hormones and
to cause this, dribble of milk out of their nipples. And also it could lead to failure to thrive for the baby, because the baby has to work so hard. I mean, there was a weird guy in California who put this up on TikTok. He wasn't a father. He didn't, there was no baby, but he was trying to express milk after having taken these chemicals, and he proudly shows up this tiny little thing, and he wanted to sell it. I guess there's like a market for expressed milk for, when it's not working out for a baby to breastfeed or something. And first of all, that's another way to take advantage of women who are mothers.
Usually women donate. They donate, their
Yeah.
breast. It's not.
Yeah.
Well,
they
in
and the thing is, my story related to this is that, so my younger son was 1. He was maybe 14 months old when I discovered Nettie's 3 cross-dressing diaries. And so that's 1992. We lived in New York City. The 1980s was the AIDS crisis. I'm suddenly realizing, what has he been doing? I have been still sexually active with him. Could he give me AIDS? And could I be passing it to my infant child through my breast milk? And the fact that these men, and that's a very male thing. I don't want to bash men at all, but it is, I think I'll turn it around the other way. It's specifically because we are the female sex who experiences having menstrual periods and having to plan ahead and having to remember all these details and carry all the sanitary supplies and all this kind of thing. We're the ones who are, kind of more in tune with all of this, right? We're the ones who experience all the changes in pregnancy. You can kind of feel when the baby's head goes down and stays there when you're like 8 months pregnant or something, and the first time you feel movement, all these things that we are biologically attuned to experience. Men are not biologically attuned to that. And so there wouldn't be enough milk for the child. The mother-child bond is being interrupted. And the guy is getting some kind of sexual kick out of this, because, the breasts are sensitive. That's another thing that's so sad about the girls who are getting double mastectomies when they're teenagers and they haven't even experienced sexual arousal, that's very important tissue that has many, many nerve endings for sexual arousal. And it does have nerve endings that are involved in sexual arousal for men. You touch your partner's body all over. So it's all, taking biological functions and relationships and turning them upside down.
Yeah.
It's really throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And
you've been saying this is something you were dealing with in the 90s.
right.
So we've been here for about an hour, so we'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, how have things changed regarding this topic from the 90s till now?
Well, it's become much more common. Individuals like Bruce Caitlyn Jenner made it, kind of a thing and popular. And then we've got, they might not be men who ideate a female persona, but we have RuPaul, drag queen, I want to call it Story Hour, Drag Race.
Oh, yeah.
And people had a lot more sympathy for me back then. And nowadays, I mean, look at how Scott Wiener didn't react at all as Tish Hyman was leaving and said, "It's documented. He has a record. He broke his wife's jaw in 3 places." And Scott Wiener cannot bring himself to say something about violence against women. And he's very far out there with all of that stuff.
They spoke more about referring to this person as a man than they spoke about his record. They didn't even speak about his record.
Right.
I'm sorry you were trapped in a locker room with a domestic abuser. No acknowledgement of that.
Yeah, I would say that it was right around the year 2000 that when I explained a little bit about my history and stuff to someone that was a new friend or a colleague or whatever, they started saying, "Oh, but think about her. Think about what those surgeries are and the sacrifice that you make for that." And it's like I wanted to smack them across the face and say, "No, don't have a whole lot of sympathy for that. That is narcissism. You need to express sympathy and compassion to the ex-wife and the children that he has fathered." Because for example, there are 30-something children among my cohort of 76 trans widows, and over half of them have expressed suicidal ideation. And a small cohort, but a small but too large cohort of in the 30s, 5 of them actually had attempted suicides and had to be hospitalized. And in all 5 of those cases, the father was not involved at all in the post-event counseling. So, and the psychological profession doesn't take this up at all. Now an interesting study came out of Finland. The Scandinavian countries have mostly, except for Iceland, done a full 180 on transitioning of children, and I think even adults. They're saying you need to do extensive therapy first, and there are too many risks with this. So Finland has been doing studies about societal attitudes, and they did a longitudinal study of how children viewed their classmates who said, "I'm supposed to be the opposite sex. I want you to call me some other name." And they found that it was a clear pattern of behavior that the children who were ideating a cross-sex persona were bullying the other kids. So the bullying wasn't from the outside towards the patient or the mentally, psychiatrically ill person, child, who is saying, call me whatever other name now. Rather, they are perceived, at least, as bullies of everyone else. Because, of course, they're insisting. I mean, look at, if you ask me, Scott Wiener was bullying Tish Hyman, who is a African-American lesbian with apparently some kind of history of childhood sexual abuse. And
turned against her.
I know.
She stood up to them.
I think that this is helping to turn the tide. I don't think she realizes, I'm realizing it. I don't think that Tish Hyman realizes what an important thing she has done. Because, to be honest, if I came in there with Scott Wiener, I think they would have shouted me down after my first sentence. As soon as I would say, look, I was married to someone like this, and I collect data on women who were divorced from men like this, and they're violent 40% of the time, domestic violence 40% of the time, or approaching 40%, 38, 39%. I think they would have gotten rid of me right away. But Tish Hyman has this presence, and also that thing that she said at the end, before she exited, she saw another black woman.
Don't let them use your blackness to these sort of surgeries on children and all these weird ideologies. Yeah.
And the thing is, she somehow gets it.
She said that her sister in prison can't even get tampons.
Yes.
You can get,
you can get free testosterone or something. Right. So, I want to start a fund, let's help her sister get out of prison. What's that story, right? But, and I'm hoping maybe that will happen. Somebody helped her get a new gym and stuff like that. You're very welcome, Maureen Master.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for joining the membership.
Yeah. So, we're just, and to see, she really is fast on the uptake, because she also said, you're trying to transform children or something like that. She didn't use the word transition, but I think child transformations or something like that. She said.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've had this happen to me. As soon as I say, I am trying to be as understanding as I can to these men, but they have a narcissistic dysfunction, personality dysfunction, and obsessive compulsive disorder, a sex-based obsessive compulsive disorder. Then they'll come back at me and say, oh, well, you're a racist and you're a Christian white nationalist, which I'm not Christian. And I'm, I love my country, I'm becoming a little more conservative than I used to be. I used to consider myself a centrist. I would say I'm a little more on the center right, mostly because of the craziness on the left, insisting on this kind of stuff and claiming that science tells us, and then they say a bunch of lies, and they won't admit that it's lies. This is all captured language. It's all indoctrination, brainwashing. It's deep in the schools, unfortunately, in places like California and New York State. It's deep in the schools, and it's being snuck into the schools, even in places that are considered more traditional and conservative. And this is because of the teaching programs. Yeah, Tish is just bee flower. I just so agree that Tish is absolutely fantastic. Go to her channel. She has a YouTube channel, Tish Hyman. If you put that into the search line, you'll find it. I've been writing comments and liking all of her videos. I think she's also a very naturally talented musician. She seems to be very
Yeah.
positive. She's also a great example and like mentor to women who want to get in shape. Because even if you look at some of her older videos from a year ago or so, she is in really top condition compared to that time. So I can understand why she's just crushed by the thought that she's going to have to stop going to this place where she's probably been working out every day, really driving herself, really getting into tip-top shape, saying goodbye to,
150 pounds within like a couple of years. So she's definitely committed to going to the gym.
and what a great example. I mean, I'm really hoping that maybe we'll see her in Jennifer Say's ads for XXXY.
Yeah.
You know,
That wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
and
probably.
yeah, and she's just so sincere. She was so sincere and authentic. And look at, I mean, the guy who harassed her, Kyle Grant Freeman, now going Alexis, smarmy, inauthentic,
Right.
obnoxious, arrogant.
Exactly.
And that's my husband became really quite insulting and obnoxious. You know, he called her the B word. I mean, really, you know, if he's over in California, it's not like people are hounding him on the street or something. He can't make the excuse that he's getting all this flack and being abused by the public and stuff like that. No. And he totally disrespected her. He didn't just sit down and say, look, you know, I really blah, blah, blah. He immediately called her the B word. Also, I just want to say something quick about his body language.
Mm.
Because there are those pictures of him from the past where it looks like he's kind of a male bodybuilder. He's like showing off his torso and all this and his six pack and looks very big biceps and all this kind of thing. And he had straight posture for that picture. In the whole video, the first Gold's Gym video, he's walking around with this sway back. And it's really weird. Like, I'm wondering why first of all, that's a very bad posture to do any kind of exercise with. That's how you get a back injury. I am a former professional dancer. It's very bad posture to do any kind of workout because you're shortening your psoas muscle, the muscle that goes from the inside of the hips to the thigh, the major flexor of the thigh. And you will get injuries. Your back muscles are getting all tight. So, but, you know, from the pictures from the past, it doesn't look like, I mean, I think that's this affect that he's doing. He is affecting this sway back pose. Yeah, look, that's a straight back, you know, but in his female persona, he's affecting a sway back pose. And I am wondering if he's doing that to hide an erection.
Oh my gosh. That was the last thing I expected you to say.
I'm always anatomical. People are surprised that an old lady, 69 years old, an old lady from a kind of traditional, you know, Middle Western background, Wisconsin and stuff, you know, now I have learned to talk about the body parts with accurate language because it's important to do that.
No, nothing surprises me, these people. It really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And was married to a woman. He's attracted to women.
Yeah, creepy.
So,
well, I mean, you could say, well, so is Tish Hyman, right? But she's not hanging around leering at other women in the locker room. She's doing her workout, going to the shower, toweling off, putting on her clothes, feeling good about herself, you know, going back to her recording studio. So if she's got any material that she has out, please do, you know, support her and download it or whatever it is that everybody does.
I saw a cover of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. She's
Oh.
released that recently.
Oh.
Yeah, it really suits the song. Really suits her voice. The way her version is really good song. So check that out. That's on X.
Okay.
And she's working on a new song. I believe it's actually related to this topic. She's talking about her experience throughout this whole thing.
Okay.
And there's the woman who I featured on my last live. What was her name again? She did an analysis of this Grant guy.
Oh,
Amy. Let me not
Amy Souza. Amy Souza?
It might be. It was from X.
Yes.
She did an analysis of Grant.
Amy Souza, Souza.
Oh, yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And she's got her voice on the song that she's working on. So maybe she does she uses something that she's said.
Yes.
Tagline or something.
Yes, so and everyone here and on Irene's channel, please copy this and put it out and tag her and all these people to give both Irene and me and Tish Hyman a heads up. I mean, I would love to be invited onto her channel or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because all music artists, they have their own YouTube channels. So you're saying that she does content on there as well now?
Well, she has a few music things up on her YouTube channel, which might be Tish Hyman something, but I found it by just putting Tish Hyman in the YouTube search line. And I think that, and she also put up the encounter with Scott Wiener, and a few shorts regarding this. And so I think it's really important too, lesbians get taken advantage of. Oh yeah, thank you, Irene.
Yeah, that's the link to your channel. I hope you can click on it, guys.
Yes, well, it's actually Trans Widow Uta Hagen.
Okay.
And I'll put it, I can go later. This will still be posted on your channel, right? Later?
Yes.
So I can go on the comments and I'll do my thank yous and I'll put in, the name of my channel. Also, my Substack is Uta Hagen, spelled just like that, utahagen.substack.com. And I did a recent one, and my sort of most viral video was about this. I got 3,000 views in about 3 days, which is unusual for me, and 100 new subscribers in less than a week. And I was kind of clearly analyzing in written form what we know about this violent man who is a cross-dresser and the data that I keep. And I think that the links to that could also be very useful. And one suggestion that I always have is over Thanksgiving dinner with your uber liberal relative who, oh, thank you, Cat Can. If the topic comes up, you could say, well, women have various ideas about this. Just check out Irene Brit USA channel and Trans Widow Uta Hagen, and then you'll get the real picture, the stories that are not reported.
Yeah, that's the thing. Or at least I think YouTube has relaxed its guidelines recently. So I'm just telling it as it is now with the pronouns. Before I was trying to be careful to avoid pronouns, but at some point you've just got to.
Yeah.
You've just got to.
A piece of advice that I would want to give to Tish Hyman is, which is my practice, if you get a troll, like the ones who say to me, well, no wonder your husband needed to transition, you're just not enough of a woman for him, or some nonsense, or telling me how to do damage to myself or whatever, I immediately click the hide this user from the channel. And so I block them. Mm-hmm. And I omit, I delete, those comments, because I am actively seeking, if you know anyone who has gone through this, I am actively seeking to have more information because I have already done the contract it's, my book, I don't make money out of my book, In the Curated Woods from iUniverse, which is a self-publishing house, a quite good one. And my book is about healing in the gardening and in the woods with photographs and stuff. But I'm in contract for my next book, which is going to be like, for example, here's a sunset picture. My next book is going to be called The Trans Widow Chronicles,
Wow.
Leaving and Healing. I really became very overt and vehement about the need for women to leave because of the approaching 40% violence rate and because of the murders. And the more I know that that is right. And in my cohort of 76 trans widows, there are women who stayed for 10 years. I stayed in this. He sort of detransitioned for a while, and then he secretly went to this Dr. Connie for the one-day diagnosis. And so women are stuck there, staying with them, and sometimes they put on a good face and they say, no, we're keeping our family together, and I'm staying, and we're not really lesbians, but I just don't want to break up our family, so and so and so and so. And I don't think there are very many women who stay who don't have children. And I still think that it's not good to stay because he's erasing you. He is diminishing you. He's diminishing his own mother and grandmother and sisters and aunts. Any man who goes full bore down this glitter rabbit hole is diminishing women and doing mother erasure and female
the
erasure.
children as well?
Yeah. No, they're messed up. My kids are messed up. They're messed up. I mean, they're not on drugs or, unemployed or something like that. I suppose if we have a bad downturn of the economy or something, maybe they'll come knocking on my door because they'll need some help. But I did find out that my older son got divorced. I feel bad that he feels he can't confide in me and, get support from me because I know how his father is. He's not going to get financial or emotional support from his father. But it's the, the politics. It's the politics. The politics is demeaning women. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
The
women who stayed for 10 years, what ended up happening with them?
Well, he had been violent. And what happened is she fell in love with a man that she met at work. And she started kind of, seeing him. And then her husband found out about it. And he took the name Bridget, like he's like 6'6" or something. He's this.
They always choose the most feminine sounding names.
Anyway, and of course he kept his red pickup truck. And he had a serious alcohol problem. He had a violence problem. He threw things at her when their daughter was an infant, all this kind of thing. But he sued her for divorce on the grounds of infidelity when she fell in love with a man. And now she's married to the man that she fell in love with, and they had a divorce, but they were on the West Coast, and she was coerced into having 50-50 time with their daughter. And that wasn't good for the daughter. She started self-harming and stuff. The daughter is close to adulthood now because that was 3 years ago. So the daughter, who was, I think, 14, is now 17 or something. So I hope she's starting to realize. But the thing is, in blue areas, in woke liberal areas, it's not popular to tell the truth about what your dad did, and this is what the other upshot of what he did. Like, this is crazy. So some of these men who ideate a female persona also become foster parents for teenagers who are ideating, teenage boys who are ideating a female persona. So this is a budding sex fetishist going to live, because he claims he was kicked out of his home or something, with like a 16, 17-year-old, to live with this autogynephile who's, 50.
They pair them.
They do. The foster, I think, I hope they don't do it in New York, but they probably do. But definitely Oregon, Washington, and California are doing this. And so that means that kind of erases the chance for this youth to come back to his healthy body. And then he was at the father's home. This 16 or 17-year-old cross-dressing boy was at the father's home, of course, every other week, when the daughter is going there to have her time with her father. And he seemed to be autistic based on her description of how he left a mess in the bathroom, left makeup all over the place. She had the sense that her room, like I had to tell her mother, who is Ophelia in my profiles, I had to tell her that she needs to have a lock. She needs to have a locked door that only she has the key to.
Yeah.
And also she needs to have an inside bolt so that no one can come into her room when she's sleeping at night. And this might sound extreme, but based on my data and based on what we know from like the pedophiles on redux.org, reduxx.org, it's not safe. There are too many of them who have no boundaries and who are violent and who are child sexual molesters.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's good, important advice and necessary.
Yeah.
Based on the little I've heard so far about this whole thing.
And then when you say things like that, they call me a racist.
Oh gosh.
And I did, in my town, actually, in upstate New York, there was a black guy, a young black guy, who was going around cross-dressing. And he went into, there was a group, I saw him go into, I just sort of observed this. I saw him go into a black men's group at a church. I was just coming out from something. And I thought, boy, I hope they help him. But they had all these men, these African-American dudes, they had such pained looks on their faces.
Well, maybe he didn't tell them that was something. Do you think they knew?
I think they knew. I talked to the pastor later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Who was running the meeting, and he said, "Oh, yes, I know. We're trying to help him."
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I guess maybe they were, these were Christians and, just really good, solid guys trying to do good in our community, which is, I don't know, a lot of towns in upstate New York. It's actually because of history, because of Sojourner Truth. After the Civil War, she accompanied a lot of freed enslaved persons who were now freed to upstate New York towns to work and have a life, because there were a lot of problems with, she was working at the Freedmen's Bureau in Washington, D.C., so she accompanied various groups, and that's why like Poughkeepsie and Rochester, Kingston, Albany have a lot of descendants of those people. And, I have seen, I think it's, don't do this. Just like, this is one thing that I feel like Tish Hyman, somehow, she's from the Bronx, I think, right?
Yeah, originally, yeah.
And she kind of sees it all. She sees it all, like what she said about, don't let them use our blackness to do this to women and children. And the way, in my experience, the way in which they're using it is to automatically go into a woman who is gender critical, to accuse, and even like women of color. They'll say you're a racist
Well, they're treating it like a new civil rights issue, which
Yes.
is not.
Right.
That's how they're trying to bamboozle people.
Right.
And I even posted a video of this guy in Texas, of all places, saying that before it used to be black women aren't allowed to go into the white bathroom.
Oh, I saw that.
Now it's the trans women. And they don't even know how racist they sound when they're basically equating black women to men.
And you know what? I've heard, I'm sorry, I can't give you the reference or the exact quote, but I have heard men who ideate a female persona, AKA, in quotes, trans women, telling black women that they are not feminine enough.
Well, yeah, that's what they say.
Oh, so that's like, it's not just me that's seeing it a couple of times and saying what? It's, that that's a thing.
They say black women and women who don't fit the mold of, what is feminine, as if they lump us into that category. Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they sound it. I'm like thinking, do these people listen to themselves? You're so
no.
to hijack other legitimate movements.
Complete lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
No self-awareness at all. No. Nope. No awareness of how they are damaging their own mothers. No awareness of how they are affecting us. But I do lay the blame on the mental health professionals because they encourage this. They're not saying, whoa, to the professional organizations and saying, oh, we need to re-examine this. There are too many detransitioners, and the other thing is the sex work, the prostitution connection. It happens that, it was pretty obvious that these guys were kind of flaunting their profession. There were two guys who happened to be black on the F train in Manhattan when I was down there a couple of years ago. When I had my cataract surgery, I was having to go down to the city, and tall guys. They were like, the train was pretty crowded. They're holding the ceiling, to steady themselves, but they're in full RuPaul drag. And they attacked detransitioners too. Yeah. And they were taunting everyone. They were saying to the women, oh yeah, you think I don't service your husband? You think I, and it was like, oh wow, you are so psychiatrically ill, and the thing is, they got off at 8th Street. Where else? So, or I don't know if they have an 8th Street stop or Astor Place or something like that. And I know, that's a certain type that's going around, that's advertising services. I think they mostly give blowjobs, but there I am saying stuff about sex again. And the thing is, I still believe what my very religious mother taught me about sex, which is that, well, of course, her very old-fashioned was, first you get married, and it's this beautiful thing. It's from God, and then you might have a baby. It's like, I still actually believe that. I think you shouldn't sleep around. It's not liberating. It's not good for men, and it's not good for women, and it's dangerous. You might get something, and you could get hurt. Oh, I've had so many arguments with young single women, years ago, 15 or so years ago, when I was still kind of in the dating pool, and I wasn't like, there was like a neighborhood place where I would go and have an early dinner, and because no one else was there, I would sit at the bar and talk to the bartender. And once in a while, some single women, oh, Kelly, yes. This is, check out her channel, Kelly Oliver Dougal. She's doing great help. We need to start a company or something. Like, we all have really great input. Anyway, yeah, now I lost my train of thought. This is what the comments always do to me. Like, I start losing my train of thought. I'm not good with this.
But yeah, I agree. And I think where we're at today, it's a lot of it's to do with people being exposed to things that has really messed with their heads. You know, being
Yeah.
exposed to corn.
Yes.
And that I really believe that's a lot of that is at the root of the issues that we're dealing with today. And
Yes.
hopefully we're moving away from, like,
Well,
it's changed since the 90s. But what's really disheartening is hearing that you got more support back then, but now
oh yeah.
wives who even just cry about what's happened to them, for example, will get called transphobic
Oh yes.
if they show that
Oh, yeah.
they disapprove of what their husband has
Right.
done.
Yes, a recent troll, the gist of what he said was, people would think you're a really nice woman if it wasn't for the transphobia that's in every video on your channel.
Wow.
And so I did a response video to this. I never answer them, I just block them, but often I print it out so that I do a response video if I've got a couple of troll comments in my collection. And Kelly Oliver has had this too. Yes, and misspellings. He told her to jump off a bride. Go jump off a bride.
Gosh.
But but in my response video, I said, but I do nature videos. I do movement videos. It's not every video is transphobic, you know, like, and also I don't believe in the word transphobic. And interestingly, the word transphobic was invented by a so-called transsexual who had all the operations, who took on the name Davina Gabriel. And he was famous for harassing women. In 1989, he coined the term transphobia based on homophobia, right? And he was one of the harassers of women at the all women's music festival in Michigan, which was called Mitchfest. And there was a history of these men in dresses trying to break in and be there with the women and stuff. And suddenly, about 15 years ago, he detransitioned and said he regretted all of it. He regretted his surgeries. He regretted damaging his bodies, and he regretted what he had done to women. And unfortunately, he decided the only way out was to off himself. But he emailed to several people who knew him and knew he had detransitioned. He emailed a statement that he wanted read at his memorial service. And so there were a couple of memorials for him. I never knew what his original name was. I would imagine that it might have been David that went to Davina. But it's just not healthy. You know, I say this about promiscuous sex. I say this about drugs or drinking too much. It's just not healthy. You know, you need to get yourself outside. Find a little corner to plant some flowers in. That's, you know, roll around on the floor, start doing some movement. I mean, I stopped going to swim at the Y in my town here in upstate New York because I heard that they're allowing men in the women's change room, and I will not. I just, you know, and I don't want to get attacked or harassed or have this experience. And so I'm on a daily walking routine and floor movement routine, which I have a playlist of it's called Wellness Movements or something on my channel. So we are doing what was known in my family as the Norwegian goodbye, which is to say, oh, we should really be ending soon. And then we think of all these other things to say. So we'll just have to continue. We'll have to have, you know, because I think more will come out about this guy. I wish we could find the ex-wife.
Absolutely.
My guess is that she started going by her middle name or something once he took the name Alexis.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
think
guess.
it's best that she remains, you know, whatever she's doing, I hope she's okay. And we need to expose more about the Grant guy.
Oh, yes.
That's what we need to focus on. Expose more about him, because I'm sure there's a lot more that he's,
oh yeah,
you know, been guilty of.
Right. And also he probably changed his name so that if he's, you know, interviewing for a job and they do a background check, then they can't find the felonies.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Tish's story is just a classic example of these men are not vetted. We don't know, these men that they're allowing into the women's changing rooms. We have no idea who these men are.
Yeah.
They could be straight up, S offenders even.
And child sexual molesters.
Yeah. And there's little girls in the locker room as well. We're not just talking about women. Women go there with their daughters, and they're just basically leaving no protection for women in various states. So sign Tish's petition.
Yes.
For some reason, it's not easy to find. If you type in Tish Hyman petition, it doesn't come up.
I think on her channel in the video notes, she has it under the video of her talking to Scott Wiener. I think it's there. So go to her channel. Yeah.
Any video I do on this story, I post the petition as well. So you'll find it pinned in the pinned comment.
Yeah.
And there's not enough discussion on trans widows. I can't imagine how horrendous that is on so many levels. Yeah, there definitely needs more discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we know that women have to be strong.
Yeah.
It's just, we have to.
In a situation like that as well. Yeah. It is unimaginable. It really is. But we're trying to change that now. We're having more discussions about it, and hopefully these women find the support that they need as well. So check out Uta's channel.
Yes, and Kelly Oliver Dougal also, because she's doing counseling. You can get counseling where you're not required to say she and her penis in your own counseling for yourself.
Yeah. So check out Kelly's channel as well.
Yeah.
And let's continue to connect and network with all of these, in support of one another, I would say.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Uta.
All right,
thank you for joining us as well.
All right.
I'll be checking out your work also. And we've been here for quite a while now.
Yes, I know. I think we've covered all the bases.
Yeah. I really appreciate it, though, you spending time.
Oh, well.
And
for you, anything. I hope I get you visiting here sometime.
Oh, yes, I would love to.
I would love to do a live stream, from me from here,
Oh, that'd be lovely.
We'll see,
I have family in New York, so next time I'm in town, New York City.
Let me know. Okay, well, I'm not that far.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the super chats, super stickers. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.
Yes. God willing.
God willing, yes. Okay.